Live from the BBC. Tonight we're bringing you an incredibly stupid American podcast called The Pod People, hosted by three buffoons and dipshits who will introduce themselves now. Yeah, I'm Matisse Van Rossum and I'm laying pipes, baby.
Oh, that was gonna be mine.
Too
I'm
bad.
Ben Sheets, and I'm stuck in the glory hole.
Nice recovery.
Hi, I'm Cleveland Mosier, and Bustin makes me feel sleepy. Or Ghostin makes me feel good. Bustin makes me feel ghost. Ghostin makes me sad.
Ghostin makes me feel watch. Because
But
we're talking
Ghostin
about.
makes me feel watch.
Yeah, Ghostin makes me feel watch.
Hi, I'm Cleveland Mosier.
We're talking about Ghostwatch tonight. This one was my pick. And in a rare turn of events, I picked a movie that I have not seen before. And not only that, an even rarer instance of me being baby on the podcast. Because I've not seen Ghostwatch, but both of you have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love this movie.
This is my third viewing.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those movies that I only haven't watched until now because I figured it would be a podcast movie. And I was like, well, I should probably save watching it for when we do it on the podcast eventually. So I decided to make the eventuality a reality. Because yeah, I mean, I've heard this movie sort of talked about in the same sort of circles as like other big like found footage movies that we know and love. Blair Witch Project, Noroi the Curse, Savage Land, stuff that we've, covered on the podcast and reviewed very highly. And everyone's like, well, you like that stuff, you gotta see Ghostwatch. I'm so glad I finally saw it. Because, like, not only is it like absolutely worthy of being included in the canon of the rest of those films, it also came first. It's sort of like the progenitor of all of those films. This came out in 1992, is directed by Leslie Manning and written by Stephen Volk. It was similar to a Blair Witch Project, sort of a thing that people thought was real. It was kind of a contemporary version of Orson Welles' 1938 War of the Worlds broadcast that supposedly freaked some people out. And this was kind of the same thing, but in the UK in the 90s.
Well, and they took every step to make it that way too. I mean, Michael Parkinson was a legitimate presenter at the time.
Right.
A lot of the people featured like on it were actual members of news media. So of course people just took it for granted when it aired.
Well, it was very similarly to the Orson Welles War of the Worlds thing. Like that story is sort of overblown in some of the drama of it, in that like they were never trying to convince people that it was real. The story was told in such an authentic manner that people who tuned in later and didn't catch like the announcement at the beginning that this is like an Orson Welles production of the classic H.G. Wells sci-fi story War of the Worlds, the people who are just like flipping to that and hearing reporters talking about like aliens landing in New Jersey, some of them thought it was really happening. And Ghostwatch is similar, where I know when they started the program at the beginning, like there were opening credits, like there was like a written by credit that like appeared on the television. But I was reading that apparently, I know you listened to the commentary, Ben, so you can probably confirm this, but the reason why a lot of people tuned in late was because one of the other big channels was showing some big movie that ran long. So people got to Ghostwatch a little bit late.
It's the top of the hour.
Right, they missed the top of the hour, so they got into it and they're watching, like you said, Michael Parkinson, who's like an actual BBC presenter, and watching this sort of like Dateline style like investigation of this haunted home in the British suburbs, or God, that's so broad, in London suburbs or whatever. Some people did think it was real, because they had phone lines. They had actual phone lines set up too that they had going in like conjunction with the broadcast, although apparently there were only like 5 people manning those phone lines or something. So when the vast majority of people called in, they got like a busy signal. So it sort of added to the confusion and chaos around the whole thing.
Yeah, and when I was listening to the commentary, the people who made it were talking about kind of how, in a lot of ways, unlike War of the Worlds, like there really wasn't as much set up to kind of emphasize its falsehood. Like they really prided themselves on using the grammar of these kind of lighter talk shows, kind of using all the special gadgets, all the corny transitions, all that stuff, to the point where one of their challenges was in the marketing of this because, obviously for trailers or commercials for it, you can't really show what's going to happen, right? So it was almost marketed like a light Ghostwatch show. There was a series at the time. There were a couple actually. There was like a crime watch. There was a hospital watch. So people were expecting kind of a light, live, fly by the seat of your pants sort of show. And so this coming in and bending people's realities was really jarring because again, like you have to also think about the time this was put out. This was 92. This was before like the advent of reality TV in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Like,
that was I was actually gonna ask if either of y'all knew about like when did ghost hunting shows like really start? Because like I obviously remember watching all of your classic like Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventure stuff in like the early to mid 2000s on like the Sci-Fi Channel and shit like that. But like that wasn't really a thing in the early 90s, was it? Like,
no.
maybe some similar, like, Dateline style kinda specials, like, maybe people had done? I don't know. But, like, this is, like I feel like at the time, the whole idea of doing, like, a quote unquote "live televised," like, haunting investigation was totally novel.
Hmm. Yeah, and again, like everything hinges on the credibility, right?
Right.
In the building of this. And to the point where the original broadcast ended around 10:30 UK time, and in the next morning's newspapers, people were outraged. There were stories about how it caused chaos. Overnight they were able to put these stories together. BBC was actually quite upset with the chaos it caused to the point where after it was released, it was kind of brushed under the rug for a little while until it kind of got some cult notoriety because obviously like people taped it on VHS,
Mhm.
and much later it got a DVD and most recently a Blu-ray release. But the grammar of a ghost show wasn't there, but the grammar of like a telethon or a light investigative show was there. So it's interesting to see like what elements of this kind of influenced ghost hunting shows down the line and what it was influenced by, right?
Yeah, that is really interesting.
It is. Like, I'm trying to look at what other telltale signs there were in the series, and or were in it that it wasn't real. And the first one that strikes me is the fact that oh shit, what's his name? I haven't pulled up. Craig Charles is in it. The kind of cheeky reporter who is who puts on the mask and is like being kind of silly at the beginning.
The dude who's outside the house, the reporter
Yeah,
who's outside the house, yeah.
the kind of class clown reporter. Craig Charles is the lead in Red Dwarf, one of still my favorite like sci-fi comedy series. One of the first sci-fi comedy series, which first aired in 1988. So like it's a very popular show and series. So like I think he's probably the biggest flag that like it's not real is that like he's like a popular actor of the time and and he's playing a character. But he is that said that he is playing himself as Craig Charles. So even still it's like
Oh, okay. So there's some plausible deniability there.
yeah, it's like he's a celebrity yeah, like special.
Well, I was reading also in the IMDb trivia that apparently Judi Dench watched this live, and the reason that
Judi Dench.
the reason that she realized that it was fake is because she's friends with the actress Gillian Bevan, who plays Dr. Pascoe, the parapsychologist or whatever, who's like the main guest on the show.
The voice of reason. Yeah.
Well, no, not that dude.
Not the satellite American caller.
Not the American guy who called the skeptic guy, but the psychologist who is on set
The
with.
co-host, yeah,
like,
yeah. Who's like, sorry, I say voice of reason with quotes because like she ends up being right.
Yeah, she's the non-skeptic. She's the one who's been studying this case and everything. But anyway, she's
You're
a
really the other guy.
she's
You're right. Yeah, the other guy would be like the actual technical voice of reason. Yeah, my bad.
she was an actress in the UK at the time and was friends with Judi Dench, and they had worked on projects together and stuff. So there's a story about her like coming home from a rap party after it had aired or whatever, to a voicemail from her friend Dame Judy being like, I thought this was real until I saw you on it. So yeah, I mean, I think that stuff is pretty funny. And I mean, like, overall it just speaks to what we're always coming back to when we talk about movies like this. What makes these kind of found footage, mockumentary kind of things effective, and it's authenticity. All of the best ones have a deep degree of authenticity where they're not doing anything to overplay their hand, that even if you know that it's not real, you can still get sucked into it like it is real. And I mean, this really has it. I think sort of in the climax at the end, it does a couple of things that are like maybe a little bit more heavy-handed than I would like. But overall, like, yeah, I mean, this feels like watching a live sort of like late night variety hour sort of show. I mean, yeah, really obviously seeing the parallels that everybody was making between this and Late Night with the Devil now. And it sort of just reinforces all of the things that movie does poorly. Granted, they don't have quite the same goals, right? Like, Late Night with the Devil is like, obviously it's not supposed to be like something that people are watching live. Like, it's set in the 70s, but it doesn't sort of like stick to that kind of sense of authenticity. All of the moments in Late Night with the Devil that I did enjoy, this movie does like way better. Like,
Yeah.
almost
Well, again,
one to
like,
one.
I think it comes down to being disciplined about kind of the formal grammar of the type of thing you're making, right? Like, I think
Sure.
here, they were really particular about making it seem like an actual show, to the point where essentially they did broadcast the, in studio stuff live. It's everything that was fed into the screens that was pre-recorded. So they had a bunch of like tape recorders in the back, feeding it in.
Oh,
And
really?
when Michael Wilkinson is responding, he's kind of having to respond to empty space, right? Between people feeding their lines in the video.
Okay, so they were actually doing that part of it live.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I thought the whole thing was pre-taped and that they
Okay.
just broadcast it.
That's
pretty
even
cool.
cooler. Like,
Yeah. And I mean, it really does capture like a really special, like, kind of lightning in a bottle thing, because like even the Blair Witch Project, which, tons of people thought was real because of, how hard they worked to make it seem like it is, like that was like airing in theaters, right? Like that was broadcasting in cinemas. This aired one night on the BBC. Like you said, some people recorded the, a VHS of it, but it wasn't until years later that it got like an official release. So it's like, if you didn't watch it live, or you don't know somebody who like has a cop, I'm sure people made bootlegs, that you could, and distributed those. So I'm sure you could like get a hold of it, but that sort of like makes it feel like found media too. And I can imagine like popping this into your fucking VCR in like 1998 or something from like a bootleg that you got from a buddy, and feeling like, even knowing that it's fake, but like feeling like you're seeing something that you're not supposed to see, you know?
Honestly, like seeing the quality that's put into this makes me think that maybe the Brits are right and paying for a TV license is a good idea. I'm just saying, they put quality into their shit, dude.
Yeah, no one watches broadcast TV in America anymore, though.
No,
Like,
that's
there's
true.
no point in having a TV license.
Oh, it's too late for us. Yeah, like I'm certainly making an argument that we should do it. I just think that they're right to do it. Like,
Yeah,
if
and
that makes sense.
I feel like we're kind of, unless like something really like changes the landscape of media at this point, I feel like we're almost past the point where we can have an event like Ghostwatch, you know, especially like with the advent of YouTube. It's like, I mean, how many YouTube videos, series, stuff there's that are like ghost hunting or, you know, trying to capture like strange supernatural phenomena. It's like, oh, it's real, it's found footage. I mean, Cleve, you and I were really into Marble Hornets in high school, which I feel like captured something similar, but even that was still kind of like the early days of YouTube, you know? It's like, I just like, what would you do now to achieve the same effect as something like this? Like a haunted Twitch stream, but even so, like who would believe it at this point, you know?
Well, I mean, actually, well, okay. Who would believe it? I think the majority of Twitch audiences, myself like
Yeah,
somewhat included in that, are real
maybe.
stupid. Like, so I think look, if Tysonat like pulled that off with a huge budget
Yeah,
that he
well,
has,
what's so
kind of sick.
interesting too is like media literacy. You could argue it's gone down since Ghostwatch. Like,
Oh, 100%.
media to debunk things is probably more available than it was back then. But like, I don't know if people could discern as easily what's real and what's fake, right? Like, the idea of this film of kind of part of the horror of it is kind of the reality of what you watch on TV not being actual reality is there for everyone. And I think that's just as relevant today, right? Like people not kind of being comforted by, what they see online or on TV and realizing that, it could be doctored, it could be, slanted somehow. Yeah. And then what is reality then, right? So I think that's just as valid today, even if it's trickier to do, right? Because we don't have as uniform of formal grammar as this, right? Because
Yeah.
like,
Well, in a way, I think we're kind of at the inverse now, though, where like the unreality of everything is that people disbelieve things that are real. Like there'll be real things. They'll be like, oh, this is doctored, this is deep faked, or whatever. So it's like nobody believes anything anymore. Whereas like back when this came out, or like the Blair Witch Project or stuff, it's like people were, I don't know, I guess like they weren't being bombarded by misinformation and lies from like every angle of their existence like people are now. I think generally the broader like social landscape was more trusting of things that they would see on like the BBC or like a noteworthy like news outlet or something like that. Whereas like now you can't fucking believe anything you see. And I think that that's the real sort of like hurdle
yeah,
that something like this would run into now. But then like to play devil's advocate to my own point, like there are plenty of people who do just believe anything that they see on Twitter. What was it, a couple years ago where people were convinced that like the government like killed a guy because he recorded a video of a giant on top of a mountain or something like that on and put it on TikTok. Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows?
You'll see the you know what? You know who is actually doing exactly that sort of thing like we've been talking about right now? Connor O'Malley. Have you seen his latest one where like with, well, I think it's called Pipe Rocks?
Pipe
where he does like
rocks,
a Joe
yeah.
Rogan style like bit. And he's like, they're putting pipes in the rocks and like all that shit. It's exactly that. Like it's in the format of like modern social media, and he's doing the same
True.
sort of bits.
Connor O'Malley has a sort of special insight into the particular derangement of the modern internet world that I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are not tapped into in the same way.
He's almost like
It
it made manifest. Like he is the derangement. Like he's so incredible. I got it. He's so funny, dude.
he has the lathe of heaven. He has the the lathe of the internet.
Dude, I'm with
What
that. I agree. The lathe of the internet. That's so fucking funny. Um okay, so let's get into the meat first. Tease, I have
the
to
meat?
ask you, since
Yeah.
you've seen it the once now, how many times did you see Pipes?
Um,
Or just
I feel like
name off the instances where you did. I want to know.
I don't know if I can count them completely. Like, definitely in the first time that the woman calls in to say that there's like a figure like in the corner.
Yeah.
I think they do I think they do a tricksy kind of thing there where when they run it back, the figure is no longer there. Like you see it the first time and then it's not. So it sort of makes you second guess yourself. That was very cool.
Well, and
Um,
it plays two parts, just to cut in real quick. Like it also at the very beginning, they're training the audience to look in the background, and they're saying,
right.
"Hey, look here. We're gonna do this again later, but we're not gonna tell you." And I think that's sick. It's always it's a classic move, but it always works. Hey, carry on.
Yeah, I feel like I only caught the ghost in the background like a small handful of times. Like I really would like to go back and pay more like special attention because I was sort of doing that thing where I was looking everywhere because I don't know where I need to be looking, and I feel like some of that makes it hard to catch those little instances. Like I caught that one. There's the really obvious one towards the end where like the glory hole door. Hilarious that they called it the cabinet under the stairs. They call it a glory hole. That's insane.
Yeah.
But where the door swings open a little bit and then the camera moves and you can kind of see the figure in there. I caught it in the reflection of the door when Sarah is like picking up like the papers that are scattered on the floor. And I mean the one like really obvious time where it's just like in the room when the camera goes by. I kind of wish that they had not played their hand so heavily there. That felt like a little bit too much to me. But yeah, I mean, so I probably saw Pipes like a grand total of like 4, maybe 5 times.
There's two more that I can clock, and then Ben might have some additionals as well.
I think I read that there's like that it shows up like 13 times or something like that.
I read
There's sick.
11, so maybe there's
Okay.
even more that I didn't
11 to
realize.
13, somewhere around there.
Yeah, for my favorite one is it's the most simple one because it's just it's almost it's not even like a sleight of hand, but it's when Craig Charles is outside and he's interviewing like the priest and like the rest of the people, like the kids by the playground and all that outside at night.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a moment where they're walking by and there's a crowd. There's a small crowd that's been, kind of gathered on the block on the side. And one of the people in the background just has his eyes like bloodied and gouged out. His
Oh
pipe.
shit!
Yeah, it's sick.
I missed
Like
that completely.
that's my
I
favorite
guess
one. 'Cause, like,
I wasn't looking for the ghost outside of the house,
yeah,
so
you wouldn't, right? Like, and
totally
that's what's so cool. It's like you saw it, but you didn't see it. Like, and
yeah,
it's like just enough where like you'd think that because he's the furthest one in the back. And like, if you're not really thinking about it, like, it could just be his eyes are in shadow, but it's like, no, they're red. It's really spooky look, and like the camera hangs on it for a long time, so like it's just there, and you don't fucking see it. It's great. Yeah, that's my favorite one, and then also at the end when the studio there's like the storm in the studio, he's in the rafters when
yeah.
the light bursts, like
Yeah,
he's
that
there in
one's
the
probably
rafters.
my favorite one.
It's so well lit. It's so fucking terrifying.
The reason I love that stuff so much is they don't overplay their hand or
Yeah.
signpost it at all. Like, again, like you don't want to kind of overemphasize it or you lose authenticity. So I think it's just
Yeah.
there enough.
that's why I think that one moment where the camera guy like pans over the bedroom and there's just like a translucent person like in the middle of the room, and then he pans back and it's not there. That was the only part of the movie where I'm like, I think you overplayed your hand just a little bit
Little
there.
haunted housey, yeah.
It's a little haunted housey, yeah. Like otherwise, all those other times you should be looking for it. It's the same game that I enjoyed playing so much in my multiple viewings of Long Legs is spot Satan in the background, you know.
Exactly.
And I definitely do love doing that in these types of movies, and I think they hide the ghost very well, for the most part. And then like I mean I think it's fine to like signpost it a little bit more at certain times, like when he's in the glory hole or whatever. Like I think that's okay, but yeah, don't just have it be like, oh, ghost, and then pan back, oh, ghost is gone. Like that's a little goofy.
Yeah,
um
like at the end of the day, like that idea is basically just horror. Where's Waldo? But like, Where's
right.
Waldo's fun.
But
Like,
it's
I
awesome.
love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
It's like I feel like we're conditioned to do that to a certain degree from like our like ancestral like primate brains or whatever. You're watching the trees for the predators, for the wolves and the saber-toothed tigers and shit, you know?
here we
So
go.
it's
Yeah.
like you're kind of you're primed to like be looking for those threats.
And that's in the dialogue too. They as much as say that later as like the first thing we see is
Yeah.
faces in the trees, which is cool.
Well, I think
All that
we
shit.
should back up a little bit and maybe give a broad sort of overview of the setup. You know, we've already talked about the format, that the type of show that it is, sort of a late night Dateline investigative show. They're doing a live on how a broadcast on Halloween, a live ghost investigation in this sort of just like very average house in the suburbs.
But one that's said to be the most haunted in
The
the
most
United
haunted
Kingdom.
in the UK, yeah, because of all of the activity, but just like it's a very unassuming house. Like it's not like
Yeah.
your typical like spooky haunted house. Like it's just like any house that you could walk past on the street, you know, in the suburbs in the UK.
It's supposed to be, like, very evocative of houses that the viewers would
That the
know,
viewers are
right, at
living
the
in,
time.
right? Exactly. Yeah, a very average house, lived in by a single mother and her two daughters. One who is sort of prepubescent, and then one who's a little bit younger. And sort of over the course of like a year or something, they have been experiencing like a lot of supernatural phenomena, things moving. Like one of the daughters gets like scratches on her, seeing shapes in the house, stuff like that. And this one doctor, this parapsychologist, has been sort of investigating the whole thing with them for months and has written a book about it and everything. And they're doing this live BBC thing. From the family's perspective, it's so hopefully people will believe them because they're tired of people thinking that they're crazy. For the parapsychologist, it's kind of, she has her ulterior motives of like trying to basically like promote her research and her study and like, you know, make people believe in the supernatural or whatever. But yeah, so they have, we have our in studio team with, like we've mentioned, Michael Parkinson, and then the doctor, and then they've got like a phone bank so people can call in, all your typical like studio stuff. And then they have a crew outside the house with all the computers and the equipment set up, everything, and then a crew inside the house made up of one reporter, a cameraman, and a sound guy. And they're there to sort of capture the mysterious things that happen inside the house over the course of the evening.
So I know that the scenes are composed of literally just things that they have at the BBC, but I really love the street setup. I think it looks amazing.
Yeah.
The placement of the truck, the cables going along the ground into the house, where the people are set, like I think they staged the whole thing like just like perfectly. Like it looks amazing.
Yeah, again, like, they had strict guidelines to do it because they brought in kind of broadcast guys that had worked on this before to, like, tell them how to do it, how they would do it. Like, the cameraman and sound guys are actual cameraman and sound guys. Like, they really, really nail that stuff because they cared about it.
Yeah, and they go through the whole process of, like, explaining everything to the viewers in a way that I really like, like, trying to do the whole setup for the layman, so, like, you see what all the equipment that they have in the van, and they explain, like, what it does, like, these things, like, record temperature fluctuations or whatever, these are all and we have the camera set up here, here, and here, and then like they talk to the camera guy and he explains like the kind of equipment that he's working with and the infrared, and they do little quippy jokes about like how fast can you move with that thing, like if things start happening are you going to be able to keep up, and he's like yeah, I can go pretty fast with it, so on and so forth. It's very sort of like typical like light-hearted cheeky British banter, very mild family friendly professional kind of stuff.
They do a really great job getting your guard down as a
Yeah,
viewer because, like you said, the first act is very lighthearted. And there's a healthy dose of skepticism, right? Like
totally.
Michael Parkinson is very skeptical of ghosts, and like the studio stuff, they later have the satellite call with the American who's very skeptical. And I think, for an audience that might be skeptical, they identify that with that, and seeing the turn that it makes kind of takes them by surprise a little bit more. And I think it's just effective because they don't overdo it by any means.
To start family friendly and then to later cross so many lines, and we'll get into that, but like they certainly do. Like I'm like frankly amazed that like some of that stuff aired at all. I guess it
Yeah.
makes sense. Like a lot of that stuff is like this EU is the sort of thing you'd see like on a Dateline of the time.
Yeah, and like presumably like most people wouldn't have their kids up watching with them necessarily. Like this would have aired around like 9 p.m. or something like that. So, on Halloween, but even so, like the real young kids would be in bed. This is the kind of thing that the parents would flip on like after they've put the kids to bed, like hoping for like, ooh, some spooks. But if you think it's real, like if you flip into it a few minutes late and you think that what you're watching is real, like yeah, you're not gonna expect them to actually like see anything, right? You might be expecting the stuff that we would expect from like Ghost Adventures and shit like that, where it's like, did you hear that? Let's run that back, and it's just like, oh, I heard a voice in that. It said, "I'm gonna suck your dick, bro," and then Zach Bagans tries to fight the ghost, but it, it's like yeah, I mean I can definitely see how like when things start sort of escalating they do so kind of quickly, but also in a way that doesn't feel like too overstated. Like you'd be like, whoa, shit, am I actually watching like some real like paranormal phenomenon happening here?
Yeah, and I think the real hinge point to make it work so well is Sarah Green's performance as the reporter in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Agreed.
she is super likable. You really root for her, and, like, having her be married to, uh, the guy manning the phones in the studio, so you have a connection between the studio and the house is really, a smart move, and I guess it turns out they're actually married in real life too, which is fun.
Yeah, well, and it's nice too because like she is one of the few people who is given a role that is not like super skeptical. Like she goes in very open-minded about it, and like even halfway through, she sort of tells a story about like an experience that she had like when she and her husband were like staying in like a vacation house and like had a dream, or like a weird dream about a ghost or something like that. So she herself is very open-minded, and she is very respectful and kind to the children and is not like dismissive of them and seems like concerned about them. So yeah, I mean she is definitely what feels like sort of an emotional center of the story. And somebody that like you're really rooting for, and also that like at a certain point that you're afraid for as well.
That makes that interaction early on with Craig Charles even funnier to me. That Sarah Green and her husband were married in real life. That because there's that bit where he pops out and he's wearing like a spooky like fucked up face mask, and
Yeah.
he says kind of reminds you of someone, doesn't it? And he says her husband, and then it cuts to him live, I guess, just being like, "Dude, what the fuck?" Like, and it's just him being like. It's just like upset that like he just like he just called her husband ugly like on live TV. It's just great.
Very funny.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
such
I
a
love that stuff.
What did you guys think of the family? The two kids and the mother?
oh, the mom's amazing, really naturalistic. Like I buy
Yeah.
like so much of her parenting, and I think that she does a great job as an actress supporting the young ones. Like I think her and Sarah Green both like were really good at like setting the girls up for their lines and giving them like the space that they needed to act and perform as good as they could for like child actors.
I think the writing and the direction really doesn't force too much onto the performances of the children, of the girls. Like they're central to the story, but they're not like expected to deliver like any serious like monologues or anything where they like really have to bust out like serious acting chops. That they're allowed to sort of keep it like they're good at like being scared a few times,
Yeah. What I like is
but
like it's very clear they were aware of that because the youngest has less to do than the older, who they do give some opportunities to,
right.
and I really like that. I think that that's like
Well,
the
yeah.
right way.
I mean, I think it's just the right amount that allows both of the kids to shine in the way that they need to, without like again without putting sort of undue pressure on them
Exactly.
with their performances. Like they're allowed to keep it naturalistic and keep it sort of believable. Because like I mean they're a very important like narrative aspect of it, because they're sort of treating this as like even something that even like the doctor is skeptical about is the possibility that this is like a ghost, right? Like they're approaching it as like this is poltergeist activity, which is not a spirit or an entity that's haunting a place, but sort of like typically like pent up prepubescent or pubescent energy that is sort of like being released in sort of like violent ways and like interacting with the environment around it. So like the doctor is very much like this energy is all centered around like these two kids, but especially like the older daughter, because she's like on the cusp of puberty, so she's like sort of the perfect age for you know creating a poltergeist or whatever. Um, and that's one of the things I love about the writing in this movie too, is like how much it keeps you guessing, and how it just like is continually presenting sort of contradictory narratives or possibilities into what might be happening, so you don't, along with everybody else, you don't really know, like sort of like how they continue to sort of like gender flip the ghost, where they'll describe it, the girls call him pipes or whatever, but the people who are calling in who see something is like, oh, it looks like a woman, it's wearing a dress. So it's like, is it a male ghost, is it a female ghost, are there multiple ghosts, is there a ghost at all? The doctor doesn't seem to think so. So it's like all of this confusion, I think, is like it's all really well managed, I
Yeah.
think, like without getting convoluted. Again, it feels authentic. It doesn't feel like we're being led to something. It's kind of just like nobody really knows what's going on.
Right. It reads as chaos, but in actuality, it's all set up. That's got to be hard to write. Like I would think, like to make something just feel like just a live mass. But actually, again, there's not a bit of fat on that. Every note, every comment is logged and used for something in the story. And
Yeah, it all makes sense. It all makes sense by the end. For as much chaos and uncertainty that there is, like it does all kind of coalesce into something by the end of it. Where I don't feel like it feels like it leaves loose ends or anything.
it makes it great for rewatches as well. Like it's why I've seen it 3 times now, and will almost certainly see it again. It makes it great for rewatches because of all the little things, like I said, looking for pipes in the background and kind of seeing like how the dialogue is used. But in addition, it's also just great to watch with friends. I find because it has that live TV pacing to it. With and during some of the slow moments, it's just fun to riff with and I just I find it to be like just a great a great experience like for group watching as well.
Yeah.
Um
We obviously watched a DVD rip of this, but like I feel like it wouldn't be this is the type of movie that I wouldn't be upset watching on like Tubi that has like ad breaks, because it
I mean,
makes
the
it
original probably did, yeah.
if they're well placed,
Mm-hmm.
feel sort of that sort of adds to like the
Authenticity.
the TV experience, the ad breaks. Um Although I don't know if this type of show when it was airing, had ad breaks, because the movie's a tight 90. I think it's 91 minutes, and these shows would typically only air for an hour. Like at the point where they even have like at around the hour mark, Michael Wilkinson be like, because like things are starting to pick up, he's like, we're gonna keep going, we're gonna stay with this as long as like the story, like as long as this is developing, like we're not going to end the show on time, we're going to keep it going. So I do really like that aspect of it. It's like no fucking Andy Griffith reruns after this or whatever they have in the UK. It wouldn't be Andy Griffith, but
Andy Griffith's in it.
oh, we love Andy, we love Andy Griffith.
Welcome to Mayberry, eh?
Welcome to Mayberry. I like Oh, what's fucking Don Knotts' character's name in Andy Griffith?
Not Opie, that's the kid.
No, Opie's
Um,
Ron Howard. What's fuck is Don Knotts' character? Doesn't matter. Uh, but yeah, I mean, again, it's just like they really like thought of everything. They didn't feel the need to try to cram this into an hour because I think it would have been too rushed if they had. Like I almost wished it was a little bit longer. Like I didn't necessarily feel like they wrapped it up too soon, but it was sort of the thing where it started to get really exciting, then it just kind of ended, and I'm like, man, I kind of wish they had drawn that out a little bit more.
you
I don't
wanting
know what
more?
I don't know what they would have added, but I mean, it left me wanting more. To its credit,
Yeah, I mean, we can get into that a little bit more in a second here because I think the third act kind of twist and kind of ideas that they're playing with are super interesting and worthy of more discussion. But you talked about seeing this with commercials. Like you said, I don't think it showed with commercials, but outside of Tubi, I would love to get a VHS copy of this movie. I feel like seeing it on like a crappy
oh
TV
yeah,
that people would have in the time. For one thing, it would probably hide some of the directness of pipes appearing because if it's on a
yeah,
blurry
maybe.
old TV, like it's not going to be as obvious. I know that recently they put this out on Blu-ray, but since it was originally shot on the cameras
Standard
that they use
def
for
video, yeah.
broadcast, yeah, it's standard def, so it's all in upscale.
Why do you want that for this?
Yeah, really. Like I don't think you need to see the
I
particulars
mean,
of the grain, right? Like
give me a 4K remaster of Ghostwatch. No, I think you're totally right. It's like Skinamarink or the Blair Witch, where it's like the ideal way to watch it is a VHS on like a fucking like 14-inch tube TV that you're sitting like 3 feet away from.
yeah, I saw someone reviewed the Blu-ray and they said kind of the upscale kind of does add some weird artifacting at times, which they said in some ways was actually a bit of a positive because kind of the themes of the movie, kind of playing into kind of the nature of the reality a little bit. I don't know if I completely buy that, but
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so
Right.
wary of these like upscales because like what was it? What was the one that they did this several months ago? Is it Jaws 3 or
That was a
Jaws
few
yeah,
years
that
4?
ago,
Jaws one
yeah.
was terrible.
Where they did the AI upscale, and it's like if you zoom in on people's faces in the background, they're just like distorted
Yeah.
monstrosities. It's like, fuck that, dude. Like, if that is the cost of upscaling, then just don't upscale, you know?
The AI upscale of Inland Empire that Criterion put out is upsetting, honestly. I know it's technically David Lynch approved, but nonetheless, like
When
it
did they
is
do that?
rough. A few years ago, before he
I was gonna
died.
say, well, obviously before he died, but
Yeah.
he'd
Um,
been suffering from emphysema for several years. So it's like, what is David Lynch approved in that situation? Like, he probably didn't even really know what they were asking him. But
He was still involved in projects. Like he was trying to get Snoot World made, and he was still trying to direct. I think there was a project he was like just directing remotely at the time as
he was
well. Like,
trying to, yeah.
yeah,
but
But
yeah,
even
again,
so,
like Inland Empire shot on DV cams, like it is, lo-fi. So to kind of give it resolution that it didn't originally have is kind of missing the point.
and
right.
to use AI on top of that, like, and the fact, man,
Ooh.
the fact that that's Criterion doing that is all the more disappointing.
I know,
Like,
like
Yeah,
they're like I think of all of the what would you even codify them as?
like
But
boutique labels.
yeah,
yeah,
as like, just as like, they're supposed to be the one that is indicative of quality, like amongst any of the rest. So yeah, them using like AI slop to upscale films is upsetting. Like yeah, that makes me sad. Well, hopefully they stop doing that. That'd be neat.
Yeah, again, I think it was only a case of like they couldn't go further with the resolution because it's, DV footage.
just
Like
don't,
usually
just don't.
usually they do film scans, right? Where they get the original 35 millimeter, which scales up because
Right.
35 millimeter is like 8K equivalent, right?
And you still
So
get all the good tasty grain when you do that. Like it's still good. Like you're not fixing things and clearing up the beautiful imperfections that are part of the art. Like yeah, I fully agree. It's the same with animation too. Like a lot of those works were originally made to be seen in like fucking 720p. Like it's just not what it was built for. Like again,
Yeah.
scans are okay, but like with animation upscales, like there's also those concerns with like the shadows being removed, like shadows being removed from cells and things like that. And like, no, keep all that shit. It's good. Like that's that's the good
Yeah, I
stuff.
mean, I think ultimately what it comes down to is just don't try to scale it up past the resolution that it was originally shot or created
yeah. Well,
in.
and
Those are the films.
sometimes movies aren't meant to be seen in pristine conditions. Like
Also, yeah.
a lot of like Hong Kong action movies with like tons of wire work, like when they were even shown at the time in theaters, it'd be like second or third generation prints. So you couldn't obviously see the wire work, but now that they're releasing on 4K or Blu-ray, like it kind of loses the magic a little
Yeah.
bit.
Or
Yeah,
just
I
like
know they
the articulation and puppetry, like in a blurrier image, like you get away with a lot more. Like
I know
something
they
the
talk about
frame.
it on Red Letter Media a lot when they talk about like old Star Trek stuff that like
Yep.
on like higher def TVs it's easier to see like how cheap some of the sets are and like see the tape on the floor where like the actors are supposed to stay like hit their marks and shit and like
Yeah.
the pieces of like construction paper like duct taped like to the back of the set, like the kind of thing that like doesn't stand out so much like in lower resolution, but then when everything is like so crisp, like way crisper than it was ever intended to be seen, that like all of that shit just stands out that much
Yeah.
more.
Well, especially too when it wasn't just like the quality of the tape or the cameras, it was in addition like with TV shows like Ghostwatch and the rest, signal is a thing
Yeah.
too, right? Like you gotta adjust those bunny ears. Storms come through and like there are problems that like that affect that affect visibility in that capacity as well.
I definitely feel like the upscaled version of this movie, like Pipes probably looks worse. Like the ghost probably looks worse. Like the CG or the digital effects probably stand out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, again, like they don't overplay their hand, right?
Most
So
of the
it's not like you see Pipes just there, clear as day at any point, right? Like
well, I mean,
he's always in the background or obscured.
except in the one scene where he's just in the middle of the room, like I've already talked about. Like
Yeah, but
it,
again, like it's panning quickly, so like even then, it's
sure. It's not a like blink and you might miss it kind of thing. It's like there's nobody else in the room and the camera pans past it and there is a translucent person standing in the middle of the room. Like it's not the kind of thing that like you're going to overlook if you're not paying attention. That's
yeah,
all I mean. And I
yeah,
think that in an upscaled like with upscaled resolution probably does not look as good. But yeah, I mean, other times I feel it's probably just a person standing there or something, right?
yeah.
Um,
Well, talking about what Cleve was talking about with like it being broadcast on TV and adjusting, your bunny ears and whatnot to get the best signal. That kind of segues nicely into kind of the third act sort of twist that I find incredibly inspired in this being live TV. In that, our main ghost is named Pipes, and broadcast signals in a way are piping in from studio to around the country, and so in a way, the third act implies that the Ghostwatch show becomes a séance across the whole country.
well, not even implies, they say that literally. But
Yeah,
it
yeah,
I do think that it really elevates the whole thing and adds to the layer of confusion for the people who are watching it who might not realize that it's scripted or whatever. Because
Well,
like
yeah, because they're like, oh, I could be haunted too. Like,
right,
yeah, it,
and
it involves them in the
they're
process. It's great.
and they're all trying to call in and they keep getting a busy signal because there's only 5 operators or whatever. And I don't know if this is true, but I did read something that like that the station during the like broadcast of Ghostwatch got something like 1 million phone calls. That seems very high to me.
yeah.
Um I so I don't know if I don't 100% believe that, but even so, like hell, even if it was even a tenth of that, if they even got 100,000 calls like during this broadcast from people trying to like find out if it was real or whatever, like that would be fucking cool in and of
Yeah,
itself. So if it's more than that, that's just fucking wild. And I do think that's a good segue into we'll get back to the third act stuff because that's where it gets really exciting. But I think what sort of helps build to that is all of the stuff that they're doing throughout where they like go back to the studio for such and such or they take a phone call and the phone calls are kind of a mix of like they have one that's sort of like a prank. It feels like a prank where dude's talking about like his sandwich plate like flying off of the chair or something like that. But there's some people sort of telling their own experiences with hauntings, but then there are a lot of people calling in being like, "Oh, in that footage you just showed in that clip, I saw something. I saw a figure, in the background." Or they'll get like tips like, "Oh, did you know that the house where they're staying, where they're living, like has a history, and that there was like some old midwife there in like the 20s or something who like drowned a bunch of kids in like a copper tub or something like that." It feels like there are like externalities that are adding to the central story, that it is, even before the twist that like the program is acting as sort of like a seance and broadcasting the ghost into everybody's homes. There's already like like feeling like this story encompasses more than just what's happening in the house.
It makes it feel super interactive, right?
Yeah,
Like, it feels
totally.
like the audience is as much of a participant as the broadcasters, which is awesome. One thing I heard on the commentary that I thought was really cool is a couple times during those studio sequences, they cut to people in studio telling their story of their experiences with a ghost. And those were actual people who had experiences with ghosts retelling uh, their stories, which is why one of them was pixelated over the face because he was embarrassed about his story. I just think that that's super cool that like not only are they going above and beyond to kind of bring in reality, they're emphasizing kind of the community of it all.
Like the naturalism of it, that like I really love hearing that guy like didn't, or that guy is blurred not because of like a stylistic choice, but because the real guy wanted to be blurred. It's cool. Like that's neat.
Yeah, wanted to be kept anonymous. Yeah, I really like all that stuff. I like all the other sort of like B segments they do where like the psychiatrist or the parapsychologist or whatever will like show things from her previous investigation, like the where they play the tape of like the spectral voice that they caught or whatever. I thought that was very spooky, very well done, where they show like the pictures and stuff of like the scratches that like the older girl like gets on her face, and like they set that up first and then it happens like later, like actually to the girl like in the house. So I
Great
sort of like
makeup.
yeah. Yeah, and again, it's not like they look like real like fingernail marks. Like they're not like super exaggerated. They're not like super bloody or anything. They don't look like paint on. It's like they look like, you know, actual like scratch marks. And another thing that I love too is sort of going before that moment, but that sort of adds to the chaos of it all, is where they do have like a sort of twist, I guess you can call it, where for a little while it appears that the thing is a hoax, that they basically catch the older girl like faking evidence. Like they catch her like banging on some pipes to like make noises in the house. Like one of the cameras like sees her like reflection in the corner or something. And so like at that moment it's like, oh shit, is this all fake? Like is this all been like a hoax or a ruse or whatever? And I really like that level of uncertainty, like the confidence to pull that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Especially as far in as they do. Um,
Well, and
well,
also like their multi-point justifications for it are great, and again, it adds to the chaos while still giving it texture and actually cementing it later. Is I forget if it's Dr. Lynn or Sarah who says it, but like where they mentioned that like if a paranormal event occurs and these girls are asked to make sense of it, they'll try and replicate it, right? Like they'll try and engage with the thing to get people to believe them because it's real, right? And
right.
they'll fake
Well,
it
yeah,
because they need people to believe them. And I really like that. I really like that addition.
and that's what the girl says when they sort of confront her about it. Is like, I
Yep.
need like she basically says like, I needed you to believe that it's real,
Yep.
because like yeah, even they feel like, you know, this is sort of like their one chance to get the world to take them seriously and not think that they're just like crazy or liars or whatever, and that if they don't catch anything convincing on tape, then everyone's gonna, you know, think that they are liars. So that the young girl like panics in that sense and feels the need to manufacture evidence to make people believe her, even though there is real shit happening. And like a bunch of very real shit does happen not long after this, you
And
know.
on the other side of that too, Pipes can control the girls
Also
and make
that,
themselves
yeah.
look like the girls. So we don't like we don't know if like how much of her is to be relied on at all by the end. And I like that too. Like it brings a lot of things into suspicion. Like a good one is early on, like we hear screaming upstairs and shouts, and the camera's downstairs and they run upstairs, and the door to the girls' room is open, and we see the youngest's face, and the door slams closed. And then they immediately enter the room, and she's on the opposite side of the room in her bed, lying face down, saying, "It wasn't me, it wasn't me." And I love that because like, and again, it brings that uncertainty. Like in that scene, do we ever know? Like, do we ever know for certain if that was her playing at that, or if that was Pipes, or what? And I think that's sick. Like, and everyone just sees what they want to see out of it
Right.
in that moment too. It's fun. But yeah, he's Pipes. He's in the pipes. He's in the tubes. Like it's such a cool thing.
Well, yeah, and they started hearing noises when they were first trying to justify it. It's just the pipes, you know.
Yeah.
It's just the pipes in the walls like making weird noises or whatever. So the girls started calling
Which
the presence pipes.
is the kind of thing kids do. Like
Yeah.
it works so well. Like it's great. And the again, like the so much of that like early description of like the name for Pipes and the rest is from Britt Brennan's like wonderful, like very believable, like civilian being interviewed commentary. Like she's just describing like this experience she had with her kids, and you buy it. Like at least
Yeah.
I do. Just
She
feels
is a
like a 90s
very
mom.
yeah, she is a very naturalistic performance. Like trying to put on a good face for the camera, but like obviously like kind of I mean traumatized. Like she has a sort of like shell-shocked quality to her, but at the same time like trying very hard to keep it together to retain a sense of credibility, you
Yeah.
know? And also keeping it together for her kids. Yeah.
Yeah, like I love that they explained that like she's been run through in the tabloids already, like that she went to them like hoping to get some actual help, and they just made her like a crazy person. So she's hoping that this is her opportunity to earnestly finally be heard. That's great. I also really like how she goes to the council to try and get her house sold, like to get a new house.
Yeah.
But she can't. Because no one believes this. Like, they think she's just being a crackpot. And yeah, it's cool because again, like, what's the old rule of the haunted house? Like, why don't you just move? And it's like she tried, she did.
Yeah.
Then she just got caught up in bureaucracy, which is the most horrifying thing of all.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's often the case, right? Why don't you just move? Is like, well, it's not feasible. I can't.
Yeah, movie's expensive.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting things in the commentary is, when she's banging on the pipes, and she's caught doing so. Uh, that is a point in the commentary where the filmmakers most directly talk about kind of the themes, right? Like the reality of TV and, on broadcast TV, are they showing you actual reality, or are they trying to get you to believe something, or are they trying to keep you tuned in? That is such a great example of it, right? Because like in a way she's banging on the pipes because this is her opportunity to, like you said, get people invested in the story, right?
Well, I mean, that's
Uh,
just that's just the nature of the medium to a certain extent too, especially with how big reality television became in the subsequent years, right? Like, I don't think anybody, well, I won't say anybody, like we've been talking about people are stupid, but most people know that reality television is at least partially scripted. Not entirely, but it's not it isn't like reality is, it's like a soft reality, right? Like it's not really the case. And yet you can still get invested in it like it's real, and you don't really know what's real and what isn't. Like so many of those things like sort of tread fine lines, and like what's real drama and what's manufactured drama. And even knowing that it's probably scripted, you can get wrapped up in it so easily.
My favorite analog, I think, will always be pro wrestling. I think you'll agree.
Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like
For reasons we don't need to
you know it's staged, but you get like, I don't know, like if you love wrestling, you get caught up in the kayfabe. Like
yeah.
you get invested in it, but also like at a certain point, trying to outsmart the writers or like try to get on their wavelength and like predict what's going to happen, like knowing that it's scripted, is part of the fun. That's always that was always what I loved so much when I was watching wrestling, is like, okay, from a writing perspective, like who is going to win this match, you know?
Yeah.
Like
And
it's not that it's real, but who what tells the best story, what narratively makes the most sense here. And you hear the stories all the time in reality television. An actual candid moment will happen, but for whatever reason, like the cameraman's not in the right place or whatever, they don't get a clean take of it. They don't, and so even if it's something that did actually happen, they will often restage the moment several times to get the best take of it for, you know, the program. So even that is like, even the things that are real are still like processed, kind of like partially manufactured or whatever.
yeah, well, and the wrestling term, right, is getting worked, right? Like
Right.
getting invested to a point where you sort of believe it. And I think the magic of the movie and the script writing is they bring your guards down so you can get worked so easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, shortly after the hoax angle, then I mean things start to really sort of accelerate for real, and a lot of your sort of typical haunted house stuff starts happening. The power goes out and stuff, but then also like sort of getting into, you know, what we've already spoiled a little bit, that like the ghost essentially like possesses the broadcast. There's like at one point, you know, where like stuff gets scary and like the cameraman gets knocked out or something, and that's when you like kind of see pipes in like the room under the stairs or whatever. And so we cut back to the studio, and then when they cut back to the house, it's everybody just sitting in the living room like playing a board game, and the people in the studio are like, oh well, I guess whatever happened, everything is okay now, until they realize like, no, this isn't live. This is pre-recorded. This is something that we've seen before. We've seen them sitting playing the game with the children in the living room before. And that's when you start to realize, like, ah, shit. The ghost is in the machine. The ghost is in the broadcast.
And at that point, I think one of the corniest things they do occurs, and it's also one of my favorite things that they do. So it's certainly not a wag against it. But wind literally picks up in the
In the
studio.
studio? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I love that shit. Like it's just fans off camera, and I don't care. It's fun. It's like it's just like, yeah, like their papers start blowing everywhere, and like I love that shit, dude. It's so much fun. Well, it works because like, it's followed up by one of the most horrifying visuals. Is like I found myself like even this time like I remember it happening, and so like I was ready for it, and I kind of chuckled to myself, and that's when the light bulb pops, and you see like his gouged out eyes in the darkness, and it's like, oh god, like that's horrifying. So like they kind of give you a little bit of both there, and it works so well for it.
Yeah, well, and to pair with the climax in the house, right? Like seeing what's in the glory hole, and you get the infrared camera footage, which I think looks incredible
Right.
here,
Yeah.
right?
I almost wish they'd done a little bit more with it throughout. I feel like because they introduce it early on, and then they really don't utilize it until that one bit at the very end. But they also don't. At that point, they only use it until they find the flashlights. So it's not even like you get a thing where they're like in the darkness and you see like a cold spot where like the ghost is or whatever. It looks great, but I do kind of like if I had to nitpick and like find another complaint, like I feel like they could have played with that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's sort of a damned if
Yeah,
you do. Like, I think this came out like also much closer to Silence. Wait, when did Silence of the Lambs come out?
1991, a
91. Oh
year
yeah, so
year
right around the
before
same
this,
time with all the
yeah.
Buffalo Bill stuff. Like
Yeah,
with the
but that's like green like night vision. Like that's not
yeah,
yeah.
infrared. You
yeah,
know,
that's true. Yeah,
it's
you're
not
right.
the same. It's not the same
Yeah,
thing.
well, it's tricky, right? Because they kind of have to introduce it right at the top because
Sure,
you
they're
can't.
introducing all of the tech.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they gotta show off the Ghostbusters gadgets.
Yeah, they can't just have it appear suddenly. But by doing so, you beg the question of where is it the whole time. So I
right.
totally get where you're coming
And
from
I
there.
Rule of three is we only see it twice. Be good to get like a little one in there.
Yeah, and I think to sort of go back on the thing about that I've been harping on a few times about like having just the one shot where like Pipes is just in the room. I think the way that you fix that is do it in infrared instead. Like have the lights go
Sure.
out or something or whatever, turn on the infrared and then pan across the room and there's a shape and you see it in like in infrared and then pan back and it's gone. Like I think that would fix a lot of my problems with it because then it's less just like a superimposition of a person in a costume in the room, you know? But anyway, it's a minor gripe because like yeah, I do think that part is very tense too because you are like looking for it. What is cool about the way that they use the infrared is they're using like a Zippo lighter to sort of like find their way through the house. So with the infrared, it turns like the little flame into what we see. It looks like a torch with like all of the excess heat and like vapor coming off of it. And so like that is a very cool visual effect because it makes the flame feel much larger. And it sort of feels like they're walking through like a dark
Interesting style.
cavern or something with like a
Yeah.
torch, you know? It's sweet. And then they go find a real torch in the cabinet. They get an actual torch because
I was thinking,
that's what we call flashlights.
do y'all think that I need to look this up, but it just came to me that maybe the term glory hole is like a blitz, like a London, like a World War II era term.
I
Like,
don't
and
fucking
maybe it's
know.
like it's where you're supposed to hide or something, and like that's why it's given like kind of a like a like
Where you're
a
supposed to
victory
hide your
garden.
penis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
don't care
well, I'm
what
gonna
it.
open up an incognito tab. One second.
Yeah,
Let me Google glory hole.
British.
Glory. Yeah, this is gonna get British porn.
Entomology.
Okay, yeah, let's do a deep dive. This tangent brought to you by Glory Holes.
Oh, no. No, I'm getting a lot of dumb shit. I don't know. Yeah, no, it seems like it's an 1800s term.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's been reclaimed,
Yep.
Yeah,
but
now it's a hole in a bathroom stall that you put your penis through to have anonymous sex.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like it's Scottish and it's a Middle English like the word glory means muddy or dirty instead, which well, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's your muddy room. It's like your basement, like, it's the place where your fucking, potatoes and shit are or whatever. I don't fucking know. But yeah, there you go.
Okay. To move
We all
on from the
learned
glory
something
hole,
tonight,
let me
kind of.
I will ask y'all this. How do
Sure.
y'all feel about the yowling cats sound effect that they use a few times?
I
Do y'all
sure I
find
sure
that
wish they'd use
effective?
different sounds.
I like it.
I wish there's at least one instance where if it wasn't, it sounded like they just played the same sound effect back to back. Um, and that kind
Yeah.
of that cheapened things a little bit for me. I wish that it had just been like a different sound, but also that could be pipes in the system or whatever. I don't know. There's an excuse for it.
I'm kind of mixed on it because like maybe it's just like as a cat owner, it's like when I hear that sound, that means I need to go break up a fight. You know, like it's not really like scary. I don't find it scary necessarily. And also, it's the same problem I have with like The Grudge, where the little boy yowls like a cat for some. The little boy ghost yowls like a cat for some reason.
Forgot he
Um,
does that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a weird decision to me. Like I feel like I understand what they're going for, and like maybe for some people it's like an eerie sound. I just think it's kind of funny. Also because like I associate the yowling of a cat sound in media with like slapstick, like a breaking glass off screen followed by a yowling cat, like the classic like cartoon sound effect, you know what I mean? It's like I don't find it scary.
Yeah. I like the context they gave to it, with the story of, the guy who hung himself, right? And
Yeah, in
his
the
cats
glory hole.
were alone in the house with nothing to eat, so,
So they
they
ate
just
him.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that they did add some context to it, that it just wasn't totally unexplained cat noises. That would have been worse for sure. They do give it like some creepy context, and like I do think it's kind of cool. It's because like we get the story about like the woman who lived in the house who like drowned babies or whatever, and at one point they find like one of the girls like stuffed rabbits like in a tub in the sink, like soaked. um but then also like the another person calls in later and tells a story about like in like the 70s or something, that there was like a guy who lived there who was like a child molester, and he started to go crazy or something, and he was talking about how he felt like he was like being possessed by like a woman or something. And so that they kind of even have like an explanation for like the gender bending nature of the ghost, that like Pipes is like the ghost of like that pedophile who was possessed by the ghost of the woman who killed the babies. So it's the man, but he's like wearing her dress. It's like a spiritual version of like a turducken. It's like you've got the ghost like inside the other ghost. But like conceptually, I think that's kind of cool.
A skurduckin.
That like a person is possessed by the ghost and a ghost, and they kill themselves, and then they sort of become like a ghost within a ghost. There's like layers of ghosts. Like I
Yeah,
think that I think it's kind of a cool idea that I haven't like
it's sick. Yeah,
seen explored elsewhere before. That like yeah, it feels like it really adds like something kind of special to the ghost in this movie. You've got this ghost that's like a creepy old man who was a pedophile wearing a woman's dress, who's had his face eaten by a bunch of cats. Like that's a good ghost.
Yeah. It helps make it feel like the most haunted house in the UK, right?
Yeah, for
Like, if
sure.
it was
Yeah,
just a
for
single
sure.
ghost.
That's not enough. But I do like that it sort of like effectively is one ghost. Like I do
yeah.
it's not like multiple distinct ghosts. That's what I mean, at least. And I like
Mhm.
that because like I feel like I don't know, like for me there always feels like sort of a lack of like clarity of purpose in ghost stories where like a house is haunted by like multiple ghosts. Like this is not every case by any means. Like there's plenty of cases of it being done well. But I feel like I tend to not enjoy that as much as like a single presence haunting a place. So I like that they sort of give you the best of both in this, that they combine multiple ghosts into a single presence that
Yeah.
feels like a single presence, like a single driven, malevolent presence.
Well, one thing that I found really interesting in the commentary is when they were originally developing this, it was originally they were planning it as a show where each episode they would go to a different haunted location and they would be bouncing around all over the UK. And I'm so glad they didn't go with that,
Yeah,
even though it's a predecessor to so many ghost shows we have today. Like, it's a completely different vibe, right? Having a
More
yeah,
ambitious
singular
too.
ghost in a singular location
Mhm.
is so much more direct.
well, yeah. It
I
removes
totally.
it removes the authenticity and the lightning in a bottle quality of it. Like as much as I love Ghostwatch and say like, yeah, I would like more Ghostwatch. Like you get diminishing returns. I feel like I mean, at least to the extent that it no longer feels authentic.
Yeah.
You do this kind of thing like every week or every month or whatever, and it's like there can be cool ideas and they can do cool things, but it doesn't feel like you're, tuning into Dateline and watching people get haunted by a real life ghost, You can't
Wait till
have
you hear
that.
my pick later.
Oh, good. Great. Well, I mean, speaking of, do y'all have anything else that you want to hit, or are we ready to rate?
I think I'm good to rate.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, as always, like there's definitely more to dig into here, but like part of the joy is doing that yourself. Like I think we've
Right. I mean, I'm looking around at the floor and I'm already seeing like we've thrown so many flowers that they're like starting to get up to like my
Yeah.
waist level. Like it is only like we can only praise the movie so much.
Yeah, well, I
They deserve
mean,
it, every one of them, but like it's
yeah, it's like, I had a couple of like minor gripes, but like it's nothing that I could seriously dock against the movie. So I mean, for all of its importance and its influence and everything that it does well, I mean, yeah, it's a 5 out of 5 for me. No notes, no real notes.
easy ditto.
Yeah, this is a 5. I think the first time it was a 4, 4.5 for me, but just on rewatches, it's grown even more. See so much on rewatches that I didn't notice the first time. It's just so rich in texture and ideas.
Yeah, it's impressive. It showcases like so much ingenuity and creativity for what is such like a simple and I think easy to sort of lazily do concept. You know what I mean? It would be so easy for them to phone this in. But they don't.
Well,
And it's something like wholly unique.
that's one interesting thing, like our frame of reference for this type of show is not as immediate as someone who saw it at the time, right? Like we don't live in the UK. We don't see shows like this very often.
Right.
Like our references are kind of secondhand, third hand.
But our
Um
frame of reference is also like however many subsequent decades of Discovery Channel travel ghost shows that were
that's
not a
very true.
thing when this came out.
That's
Like
very true. But I think one of the perks to this is again the formal rigidity. It's a through line to make it feel authentic regardless of how closely we know those shows. And I think that's again going back to Late Night with the Devil, what that kind of missed out on is like people nowadays aren't as familiar what 70s talk shows look like, you know, but if they had the rigidity to kind of emulate that more closely, there would be a lot more leeway, right? At the same time.
yeah, I totally
So
agree. Well, that's a unanimous Golden Pod 5 out of 5 for Ghostwatch. But before
Earned.
we get to Cleveland's pick for next week, going off of what you're just saying, Ben, I want to offer y'all a pitch for my sort of take on Ghostwatch. I'm saying let's get To Catch a Predator back in the mix. Let's get Chris Hansen and we set it up like a normal episode of To Catch a Predator where they catfish some pedophile into coming to a house thinking he's going to bang a 12-year-old and Chris Hansen walks in and take a seat. I mean that's just what the show is, Cleveland.
I
But
aware.
but the twist is the house is haunted or the pedophile that he catfishes is a ghost. I'm not. I don't know.
Ooh.
I don't know which one of those I want to go with. We're still in the early development stages.
well, okay, let me give you this idea. So, To Catch a Predator is off the air, but what is on the air, at least online, are brain rotted Zoomers doing their own To Catch a Predator and
Oh yeah,
bringing
where
in
they just
people like Little Pump or
to
Ty
just
Dolla Sign to
physically
uh
assault mentally disabled people.
yes,
Oh,
Yeah.
yes,
yeah, they do that going back to that Connor O'Malley thing. He does that in his pipe
yeah.
rock videos or his pipes. So, Tease, what you're suggesting is pipes rocks.
Yeah.
So the pipe rocks.
And
So the
and
countermelody.
I
Okay,
and
very
I,
good.
I see where you're going with this, Ben, but for me, Chris Hansen is non-negotiable.
Oh,
Oh,
you,
okay,
you,
okay.
we got to wheel him back out.
I must have Chris Hansen for this. Like
I
you
could see like
need
getting like a
you need
younger
that kind of
comedian to do a
you
Chris
need that
Hansen
kind of
impression
credibility. No,
for it.
you need that kind of credibility because Ghostwatch had Michael Parkinson, right? Like an actual like BBC broadcast like television personality. So if we're going to do our spin on that, we need the same thing. And so we need Chris Hansen.
To
Wow.
Catch a
So,
Predator, the Lost episode.
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Perfect. Yeah. To Catch a Predator, the lost episode. It's the story that we never heard because it was too scary for primetime television because Chris Hansen got diddled by a ghost.
Okay.
All right. Anyway,
Thanks,
next
Steve.
week it's Cleveland's pick. Cleveland, what are we talking about?
Okay,
You actually
so
haven't told us yet.
okay, next week we are going to be discussing. I'm doing a twofer, and we're going to be discussing the works of Nigel Neal. I've
Who?
mentioned this on the podcast several times. Nigel Neal was the most known as the writer for Halloween 3, but he wrote two separate BBC horror specials, and I want to cover both of them. Or he's written a lot. I mean, the man wrote professionally for 50 years. The Wikipedia says here, like has a great record. But these are two of his works that have like personally, like have recently, like really surprised me in terms of quality and the rest. So we're going to be watching the first episode of The Dead of Night, titled simply The Exorcism. And then, in addition, we're going to be watching the made-for-TV film The Stone Tapes. I've been looking for any excuse to show these to you guys. I think you're going to love them.
We're doing 3 UK Ghost episodes back
Yeah.
to back. We're
And,
really
like, it's so funny because like earlier in the episode, you're like, I don't think like you could do Ghostwatch again. I'm like, we're doing Ghostwatch again, boys. we're gonna like we're
Okay.
diving in.
All right, I trust you.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna say any more. We're just gonna dig into it.
All right, well, yeah, I guess join us next week for a 2-part BBC horror holiday special short thing.
A holiday, just horror shorts.
Okay, I thought you said they did them around Christmas time.
No, that
That's something
was
different.
that was for
Right.
Inside Number 9, which was shot in like 2015.
Okay.
That's a different one. Which also rules. I've been watching more of that, and it's sick. But anyway,
Cool. Well,
yeah.
next
another
week we're staying in the UK and we're staying with ghosts and spookies. So
Yeah, and roughly around like the 80s and 90s too.
cool. All right. Well, that should be fun. So until then, if you like the show and you want to show your support, why don't you leave us a 5-star rating and a nice review? Like and subscribe, follow us wherever you're listening to this. Share an episode with your best friend or your worst enemy. If you choose the second, then we got some bad episodes that you can give them to, I don't know, damage them psychically. So go for it. You can of course become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/podpeoplepod. Shout out to the honorary pod boys as always, Sam, Zach, Micah, and Mitchell. Y'all are the best. And of course you can follow us on Letterboxd, Pod People Podcast, where you'll find a list of all the films we've talked about on the show with our average ratings and links to those reviews, as well as our full list of golden pods. Perfect unanimous 5 out of 5 scored movies. We've got a pretty nice little batch these days. For
We love
my
movies.
recommendation, yeah, we love movie. We love the movies.
We love the movie.
For my recommendation this week, I'm going to recommend something that I have certainly recommended in the past, not the least because we reviewed the film adaptation of it a few years ago, but I'm going to recommend the Adam Neville novel No One Gets Out Alive. Pretty, we're mixed on the movie, but the book is pretty different, and I think that it really captures a lot of the same vibes of Ghostwatch, this kind of like UK like suburban like ghost stories, and also sort of like going into exploring the ideas of like not being able to escape a bad situation because of poverty or because like life is against you in so and so ways, so that like just move out is not an option. But yeah, it's a pretty hefty book. I think it's Adam Neville's longest, but it's very spooky. It's one of my favorites, so always will shout out that boy.
Have I recommended Jam before?
Just like the general concept of jam, like
No.
Jellies.
So
Like
there's
jellies,
in the
confections.
90s there was this radio sketch show called Blue Jam. It was done by Chris Morris, who, you know, went on to do stuff like Four Lions. But essentially what it would air at like 3 or 4 in the morning. So like when party goers are like fried and coming home from a late night, and it's a horror comedy program where all of the stories are incredibly fucked up and really disturbing, but done in a way that feels just like a bad trip, right? Like it's intermixed with ambient works and IDM and music of the time. And it is such a unique experience. I would absolutely recommend it. Like, for example, there's one story of a guy who wants to kill himself, but he's too scared to jump from a 60-story building. So instead, he jumps 60 times from a 1-story building. And so
Awesome.
it's a very dark, heavy premise, but done in such an absurdist style that you can't help but laugh. And this is what it's like throughout the show. He actually went on to make a 5-episode TV show version of it as well. And there's alternate cuts where he like slows stuff down and stuff, so it feels especially like something you would get the vibe of if you were on like shrooms or fucking just too high off your ass and fried on something. So big recommend on that.
Oh yeah.
Cleve?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend the literal concept of jam. It's delicious. Put it on things.
What's your
Anything.
favorite kind of jam?
Strawberry. No, blackberry. God, they're so fucking good. I love jams,
Nice.
dude.
Yeah.
Blackberry jam's good. No, jokes aside, I'm going to recommend something that I believe has recommended before as well, which is, but it is relevant to next week's pick. That is the video game Control. And I won't say why.
Okay, you're recommending it this week instead of next week when we talk about the film.
Well, I have another recommendation next week that is equal
Okay.
parts relevant, but I think even recommending it is a bit of it kind of gives a little away. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, thank you for joining us this evening on this BBC live broadcast of the Pod People podcast. Until next week, keep a watch out for ghosts.
Ghost watch out. Watch out for ghosts. And Ghost Watch.
Pipe it up, 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 pipe it up. I walk in the club just to pipe it up. I stand on the stage and I pipe it up. Get a regular hotel, I pipe it up. Go buy a bando, then I pipe it up. Pipe it up, 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 pipe it up. I walk in the club just to pipe it up. I stand on the stage and I pipe it up. Get a regular hotel, I pipe it up. Go buy a bando, then I pipe it up. Pipe it up, pipe it up, pipe it up. Pipe it up, pipe it up, pipe it up. I walk in the club just to pipe it up. Walk in the club just to pipe it up. She was a basic bitch till I piped her up. She was a basic. I'm just doing my dab. I call it the pipe it up. Damn. They know that I'm having blue Benjamins. They know I'm on top of the pyramid. They know I'ma go down in Guinness. Know it. All this dab a nigga dripping. Damn. Piped up in the city. Piped up with your bitches. Piped up intervention. Piped up new edition. Ay. When a nigga start talking shit, got a pipe up the ammunition. Yo bitch walking around piped up. When she see me, she blowing kisses. Feeling like Aladdin, Quavo the genie. I grant your whole 3 wishes. You know I do magic, Quavo Houdini. I touch the pack and get it missing.